This episode of Vintage Stormfront Freaks has been previously recorded.
Speaking of games, nice one. Good job there. Thanks. Hey, OUTBRK is a multiplayer storm chasing video game. It's designed to emulate all of the fun of storm chasing with none of the boring bits like, I got to go to the bathroom, that type of thing. A successful Kickstarter campaign last year assured us the game is going to be coming to a PC near you soon. Marc Remillard from Montreal is head of development for OUTBRK and has been chasing storms for like 15 years. Being a sound designer, mixer, and composer, he started learning about game engines using his basic knowledge in programming as a starting point. Bonjour, ça va, Marc?
Bonjour tout le monde. Hi. In Montreal, we're used to hearing bonjour hi as a one thing to say when
Bonjour,
greeting
hi?
people. Yeah.
I love that.
A bilingual greeting.
Very nice.
Yeah. So thank you for having me, and I'll just say cheers for now.
What are you drinking?
So I'm drinking. It's a beer from here, actually, from Quebec, Canada, and it's a Russian Imperial Stout aged in bourbon oak barrels.
Oh, damn, you're going heavy.
That's
That's
the way to
nice
go.
stuff.
So
Good
I'll
for
just
you.
have one, obviously.
Well,
Russian beer in
Mark,
Canada.
do us a favor, Mark. Those that don't know about OUTBRK, maybe give us a quick introduction to the game, and then I want you to just jump into the whole Kickstarter campaign. What prompted you to go in that direction and how it went?
Yeah. Well, at first I've been a storm chaser for a while now, and I kind of always dreamt of having a game where I could keep on chasing during the dead season. So, and being a nerd myself, I just decided to start learning how to program and do 3D stuff, and I ended up working on recreating weather in video games, video game engines. Sorry, and you know what? That's probably the hardest thing you can do in a 3D engine, rendering stuff that is sometimes transparent and that keeps moving with fluid movement. So it's probably the hardest thing you can imagine. So at some point, a friend of mine who's also a chaser made me realize that I could maybe use weather model data and integrate it so I wouldn't have to actually compute the physics myself, right? Because I obviously am not a scientist. So I started working on it. I hired someone, so I guess I took some risks. And we finally came up with a way of using the model data and integrate it into a 3D engine. So at the same time, it became the first like real-time visualization of super complex data, like weather data. So you're actually able to see it in 60 frames per second or more, which was impossible before. So I was really happy and started actually working on the game design. And then a friend of mine joined me into designing the whole gameplay, and then he's also designing the world of OUTBRK, because it's obviously if you're doing a storm chasing game, you need a huge world because you need to be able to drive for a while. So
Hey, I thought you were taking out the boring parts of the game.
yeah, well, you can drive a while and be following a storm, right? So
It's true.
Yeah, that's all part of the hype, Phil. Come on, half the fun is the drive with the music and the food and all that stuff.
For good gameplay, you need to have stuff that is not too easy, like road networks that are really complex, and you have sometimes to cross rivers or go around the canyon. So that's all part of the world, and for that we needed a huge world, which is another thing that's really hard to do in video games because that's hard on a computer, obviously.
So Mark, listen, every storm chaser on Earth has had a moment where they go, damn it, I wish I would have gone there instead of this. Do you have like some secret kind of like Easter eggs hidden in the gameplay where you can like transport from Salina, Kansas over to Canadian Texas in like that fast? Please say yes, Mark.
Because that happens in real life. Right?
Right. Yeah. The secret code, you have to note it right now. So the secret code's going to be Greg.
I could definitely use it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love
But,
that. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mark. Oh no, I have another question for you. I thought you were
Sure.
done. I want you to finish.
No, I was done actually.
Well, then I'll go.
So it's kind of like what Greg was asking. So like, are the cars equipped with the radar equipment and everything, or do you get like certain points along the way when you're chasing a storm and you get like an anemometer and you like get a camera or something like really cool on your car?
Yeah, so you start with the basic equipment, so the basic vehicle as well. So you have like the kind of a basic sedan vehicle, with not the greatest for going off road or in dirt roads and stuff like that. So you have that, and then you can with chasing you get some points, which is like the currency in the game. And then you can improve your vehicle or buy new ones. So there's going to be multiple categories of vehicles. So there's going to be the smaller ones like the sedans. There's going to be the SUVs, the trucks, and armored vehicles, like you guys know. And
love the armored vehicles. Yeah.
And we plan on we already have the Dominator part of the game.
That's awesome.
We're going to have Daniel Shaw's SUV and a couple of ones from a chasing tour company, as well as some people that paid some money during the Kickstarter to have their own vehicles in there. So it's all going to be part of the game where you kind of use your virtual money to improve your gear, and that's going to help you as well, because in order to make more points you need to have better equipment for better, like, let's say, like footage if you're into filming or taking photos. And then the gameplay is going to be a lot centered on getting data, like dropping probes or having stuff on your car that's going to measure wind speed or pressure drops and stuff like that. So it's there's a lot of different ways of making points, but there's also a lot of ways to lose some points by having to fix your car and stuff like that.
Mark, there's
hitting people. I'm sure you lose points when you hit people. Right?
Yeah, usually.
Is this like Grand Theft Auto storm chasing in that too, where you can, like, if your car breaks down, you can like steal someone else's car or something like that?
Steal someone else's Dominator,
That would be awesome.
Oh my God, that would be hilarious. That would be awesome.
Man, I would like to chase in a police car. That would be fun.
That would be fun.
That's probably good. We plan on having some special cars, like even like supercars, because someone's going to find it funny to drive a Ferrari inside a tornado, right? Sure they will.
Hey, I want like all my fellow freaks to know I was going to upgrade to the package where then I could put the rental van with the Stormfront Freaks magnet on the side of it as a chase vehicle.
Yeah,
but they were all taken. They had already all been taken on Kickstarter. So
Wow.
Oh no,
can't do that.
that would have been amazing.
But
oh my gosh.
so Mark, so tell us about Kickstarter. So what opted you to go that route, to use Kickstarter, and what were your expectations going into it, and how you felt when you were done?
Well, since the beginning, I started creating kind of a community around it. So I started on Stormtrack forums back then, just telling people that I had this idea of doing that, and I was gathering ideas and what should be in a video game about storm chasing and what shouldn't be in there. So after a while, I created a community on Discord, and a lot of people joined. A lot of young people, but also any age, like all the weather nerds out there are kind of interested in that kind of project. So I guess since the whole project was growing a big community, I decided that I had some kind of I had to use this community and make something big out of it. And I think it was the best way of financing the project, because at the end of the day, I didn't want to do a game for money, because you won't make any money with a storm chasing game. It's too much. It's very niche, right? You won't get millions out of it because a lot of people won't care about that kind of game. But
tell me about it. We got a podcast about that.
Yeah. But for me, it was more like, I want this game to exist, and I've built a community around it, and I think people are really, really hyped for playing that kind of game. So let's make it happen with the help of everyone. So that's how it started, basically.
Where do you get your ideas from? Because I mean, there's got to be so much that goes in. Just the game itself has got to be just a ton of ideas, and then you have to have the visual aspect. And then you're coming from a sound background. Are you using like, what Twister is? You use like a cougar and other, like, where do you get all these ideas from?
So I had like probably thousands of ideas of how to design the gameplay and all those things. But I think that when my actual partner right now, David, joined me into this big project, it helped a lot, because this guy is a level designer at a AAA video game company, and I'm not sure I can even tell which one, so I am going to shut up now. But but yeah, he's got a pretty good background in video games, generally speaking. So he helped me so much in telling me, like, okay, so 80% of the ideas that you just told me are pure shit. Oh, I'm sorry for the word. and those ones are good, but maybe we should rework them. So we did a lot of those kind of sessions where we go back and forth and design the gameplay elements around it, because I think that kind of project, especially how big it is, needs to be well designed for it to work.
So Marc, when you said that some of the ideas were that word you used, do you mean that they would be too hard to implement in a game, or that they were just not useful for the game? Like, was it because they were too hard to make?
Well, I am mostly the one who make them possible technically. So usually my ideas were something I could realize, but then when they were bad, it was mostly because it wouldn't bring something to the gameplay, or would bring something bad to the gaming experience. Because at the end of the day, fine, we all love storm chasing, but this guy doesn't know anything about storm chasing, my partner, and he comes from a gaming experience, and he's telling me that even though you love storm chasing, this is not going to work in a video game.
Do you have an example?
Like electric shock, if lightning
driving
strikes?
8 hours in a car.
Yeah, driving a lot of hours, having everything real time, or having days that keep on going, and then the next day starts when the sun rises, and the server just keeps going, and you just chase the next day. But at the end of the day, it would be like you would have to wait for hours, or at least a good while, to get a new setup and start chasing again. Or all the different ideas that I had for improving your vehicle, improving so much stuff that would be out of range for us. Like we won't start having to, repair specific parts on your vehicle, or have potholes on the road that might give you a flat tire, and then you'll have to call someone to get help on the road.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
all
know how to fix my flat
small
tires,
features that. Yeah.
I call AAA every single time.
And you can't storm chase in a tow truck. It doesn't work.
Nope.
So yeah, I realized, and he made me realize also, he helped me a lot, that for a game to work, you need to have some sort of balance between risk and reward. So that's where we're putting all our energy in, because so we wanted to make players take some risks, but without taking too much risk.
Yeah. So Mark, I have two questions. One, what's your favorite part about the game? Like, is it the gameplay, or what's your favorite part? And then two, do you guys have any plans of maybe, this is probably down the road, but maybe doing something with Oculus where you could actually like insert yourself into a virtual reality into the game?
Okay, yeah. So I'm going to start with the last question, if that's okay.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay, so yeah, if I can make it happen, I will definitely make it happen for the virtual reality. But basically, VR is like rendering a game twice, because you're rendering it for one eye and rendering it again for the other eye, and that's what makes it all 3D for your eyes. So if currently I'm trying to have a game that runs well on most computers, if I had to make it twice the power, that if I had to need more power, basically it wouldn't be happening right now, at least. So maybe at some point we'll have some updates with the engine, we'll have new way of working with shaders, and that will be possible. But for now, like in the next 1 or 2 years, I don't think it's going to be possible, but let's see after.
Yeah.
And what was the other question? I'm sorry.
What's your favorite part about the game?
Oh yeah. So right now, the favorite part, I think, is, since I've always wanted that kind of game, my favorite part right now is definitely the immersion. The way that right now I can go into a field and be next to this huge cloud with this heavy rain shaft to my right, and hear thunder in 3D, and just look around and have the sound that works with it, and just follow a wall cloud or just core punch, just the way I feel like completely immersed, even though we're not even released yet, right? So we're still working on it, but sometimes I just lose myself just going inside the storm and being like, wow, okay, this is really nice.
That's cool.
Yeah.
God, pull them out.
The Stormfront Freaks is now available on the Weather Store. Come shop our catalog of shirts, hats, and hoodies, all with our Stormfront Freaks logo and Outbreak logo. Plus, you'll find all your other favorite weather geek and storm chasing gear, footwear, and accessories. Visit the Weather Store at thewxstore.com, the exclusive supplier of the Stormfront Freaks.
All right. Thank you, Phil. So Dr. Kevin Kloesel, meteorologist, University of Oklahoma Office of Emergency Preparedness. Kevin is responsible for providing weather forecasts and weather safety information to the OU Office of Emergency Preparedness before, during, and after weather threats of all types on the OU campus. In addition, Kevin serves as the director of the Oklahoma Climatology Survey. And do you moonlight as a janitor then too? You got lots of titles going on there.
Yes, absolutely. I drive a Zamboni as well. Yes.
What's your favorite job that you do, or can you say?
The one I'm doing at the moment.
Drinking?
Yeah, sure. That works.
So how did you get to be those various different roles? How does that come into?
Man, by total accident, right? My PhD back in the day was on marine stratocumulus, and I don't think I've looked at marine stratocumulus in 20 plus years. So we kind of identified a need at the University of Oklahoma that we have a lot of outdoor activities, over 300 a year. That's everything from athletics to graduations. And in the heart of Tornado Alley, we really, I think, were sort of remiss in doing all of the prep work, the emergency management kinds of things that you need to do. But thankfully, our university has very much embraced this concept of being safe on our campus. And now I have the best job in the world, and that is to keep the 39,000 people on our campus, that small city, as safe as we possibly can from every imaginable weather threat. And it has been absolutely a joy to work with all of the various departments on campus. As a faculty member, you get to work with your own faculty and students, but on the emergency preparedness side, I get to work with everybody on campus: students, faculty, staff, student organizations, athletics, you name it. It's an absolute joy to work with those people.
What's the most memorable safety issue that you've had on campus?
Every time we have a tornado warning in the vicinity, we do approximately, and last year we checked, over 1,100 hours on our campus sitting in a watch, warning, or advisory. 82 days with lightning in the vicinity where we had to take action, 122 days with a weather threat. So about 1 every 3 days in central Oklahoma, there is some sort of weather threat. So they're almost too numerous to mention. It's why I mentioned earlier, it's whatever's going on now, right? Which is freeze warnings and advising facilities and intramurals and things like that. So it changes, right? And that's what I love about it. It's no 2 days are ever the same, and that keeps everything fresh.
It's amazing anybody makes it to class with all that going on.
They would rather not. I mean, I get pinged all the time, why aren't you canceling this or canceling that? Or, gosh, the hashtag make the call. If we ever have snow in the forecast, my phone blows up with texts and phone calls and you name it. So yeah, if I can stay away from hashtag make the call, that's awesome. So.
Do you have anybody else that helps you with that, Kevin, in your department?
No, I'm flying solo on this. I'm like my own weather service office, 24/7, 365. So that's something we're working on campus, is what does this look like going forward? I think we've proven the utility of doing it. And now I'd love to hire some folks, some recent graduates, and I think we're working towards that. So that'll be good.
Kevin, I got to ask, Oklahoma, how many days a year would snow or ice be a thing? Like I get the tornadoes, but snow and ice, really?
Yeah, it's not so much snow actually here. Unfortunately, this last several years, it's been more the freezing drizzle, freezing rain thing, which is a little bit more dangerous with the way people drive around here. So, and I don't mean to throw everybody under the bus, but the fact is that it's not Canada, right? So we have to be very, very careful. And it's probably 5 to 7 days a year that we have to deal with those kinds of things. I think more importantly, just cold, right? When you get bitter cold air, even if you don't have precipitation, we have a lot of things that are on campus that are cold sensitive. And you do not want the power going out when you have people doing millions and millions of dollars of research and having research projects ruined, for example. So preparedness is a big deal, even in cold weather as well.
Right.
Have they ever had like the day when they're like, Kevin?
Yes.
Your
Both
picture.
sides. One of the really cool things about our text notification system to campus is that people can reply to it. And I don't think, except I'm about to reveal something if anybody's watching, if they reply to it, 1, I see it, and 2, I know exactly who it's from. So, so the kinds of things that I get when we cancel school are crazy, right? Everything from I want to kiss your toes to, I mean, it's just nuts. To when we are back in school, it is the biggest F-bomb fest you have ever seen in your life. You would think that I have just wronged everybody, have become the most unsafe individual in the history of the planet. So
Kevin,
what's
that threshold? What's that cold threshold for shutting things down?
So cold thresholds will depend on whatever is going on our campus. Usually we've got to get well below 0 if we're dealing with a closure just because of cold. But boy, the ice thing, if there is a single flake, we had flurries the other day and people were calling and asking if we were going to cancel. So yeah, it's crazy.
Have you been propositioned yet on social media for canceling?
Yes. There's a rumor floating around that a rather large tip jar is in my office, and I have had people come by with cash and gifts and things like that because they have an upcoming exam or something that they really need to have canceled. So yes, it's been a little weird that way.
With great power comes great responsibility, Kevin.
I guess. It's kind of funny sometimes. So, but like I said, no 2 days are ever the same. So,
Greg, what's the threshold in Canada? Like -40?
Actually, our kids, my kids are still in the public school system. Well, one's in university now, but they still go outside for recess. If it's at -20, that's their cutoff. So we had last year in February, we had about 5 days where the kids didn't go to school at all. It was just no school day, but it was because of cold weather. But in the month of February, they did not go outside for one recess.
So Kevin, take that, man.
Yeah, I know we're soft. We are soft. I can say that. So.
All right, so Kevin, I don't know if everybody knows this like I do, but for however it is, and this is what I want to find out, you have developed a quote-unquote expertise in large event and sporting event weather safety planning.
Yes.
And so I've got some questions about that, but first and foremost, I really want to find out how did you develop that? I mean, a lot of the things you're talking about in your background leading up to what you're doing now at the University of Oklahoma maybe didn't have a history in large event planning. So where did that all come from? How'd you develop that following and that expertise?
Well, it's really weird because we have made it as meteorologists so easy for people to be their own meteorologists, right? The apps that are out there and everything else. And so by empowering individuals to be their own meteorologists, we have also empowered them to make mistakes. And those mistakes have gotten people killed. And, all the way back to the Indiana State Fair stage collapse. Heck, we can go all the way back to a, May 1929 game between the Yankees and the Red Sox where people were killed at Yankee Stadium. So there's been a long history of people trying to do things on their own. And all we did is really at OU is we started formalizing expertise and bringing that to the actual problem of large event space. And one thing led to another. We started hosting a severe weather summit in Norman for event managers, and we had just some great people come. Unfortunately, most of the people come after there's a disaster. So, for example, after the Georgia Dome gets hit by a tornado, people show up. Or after a NASCAR event has a lightning hit, they show up, et cetera. But, man, we've got some fantastic working relationships across the space that includes the NFL, NASCAR, et cetera. We still have a ways to go in Major League Baseball, but we're starting to see significant changes with the NCAA, and I am absolutely thrilled about that.
Who's got of all of those sports? So I'm looking more on the sports end of things. Who do you think of all the associations and leagues and entities? Who do you think's got the best weather plan right now?
NFL, without a doubt, and I think a close second is now NASCAR. Of course, they've had some issues in the past, but my goodness gracious, Troy Wilrick, who was at the Daytona International Speedway, he and I met years ago. And they have developed maybe one of the most sophisticated plans for safety. And it's something that is now a model for everybody to use. And that is this emphasis on minutes, not miles, right? We get so fixated on a mile radius around a venue, 6 miles, 8 miles, 10 miles, whatever it is. But that doesn't take into account the speed of the storm, the size of the crowd, the evacuation time from whatever venue it is. And in many cases, what we observed is most people were using the same exact plan, whether it was a football game, a concert, or whatever. And you can't do that, right? The demographics of those crowds are very different if you have a concert versus a football game versus whatever it is. So Daytona has been at the lead of this. And part of this is all under the umbrella of the Event Safety Alliance, which is an organization that came out of the Indiana State Fair stage collapse. I am honored to be a part of the Event Safety Alliance teaching team. We have workshops every year. We do this in various places around the country. We just had one in Canada. There's now an Event Safety Alliance Canada. I was just in Toronto a couple of weeks back doing a severe weather summit for many of the folks that have venues there as well. And it's just taken off. We have thousands of venues that have gone through the training.
So, Kevin, I have a specific to Canada. Well, I shouldn't say specific to Canada. Specific to concerts, outdoor facilities where there isn't a stadium like you have at a football game. We've had a couple notable events in Canada with stage collapses where people were killed. What do you do when you've got 30,000 people in an outdoor venue, no actual shelter facilities? What is the what could possibly be done in that situation?
Well, what's interesting, and I'll go back to Indiana. If everybody is familiar with the 2011 Indiana State Fair stage collapse, the Sugarland concert, there was a Philharmonic concert that night at a venue that was outdoors with no shelter. And the same storm system hit that venue just like it hit the Indiana State Fair. Nobody was killed at the Philharmonic because they knew how much time it took to get everybody out of that venue and to safety, and acted proactively with the help of private meteorological services, with the help of the Weather Service. So they embraced professional meteorological expertise and a well-written plan to know exactly how long it took. And you can do that, right? That's something that, of course, Ottawa Blues Fest back in the day, also 2011. That one was interesting because, again, nobody really knew back in 2011 that we were capable in the meteorological realm of providing lead time for those types of hazards, lightning, wind, etc., to get everybody to safety, whether that safety is vehicles, whether it's buses, whether it's substantial shelter like Indiana State Fair stage, that area had. So it depends on the venue. This is why if somebody asks me for our emergency plan for our stadium for a football game, some other university they ask me that all the time. Can we have your plan? I'm like, no, I will help you with your plan, but our plan won't work for your place. You have a different stadium. You have different people, different surrounding buildings. Maybe you don't have surrounding buildings, which is going to increase your lead time that's needed. So it's very much door to door. It's not one size fits all. And we're continually doing the door-to-door thing.
And do you get much pushback?
Yes, but we have also received, now working with these folks over the years, a level of trust that they understand that what we're trying to do is not ever be the office of no. We want to be the office of let's have it, but let's have it safely. Masters final round is a perfect example of that, right? We're going to move from the afternoon into the morning, right? Against everybody's church schedule, Sunday at Augusta. But
with Tiger leading,
right? But that thing went flawlessly because the capabilities that we have in the nowcast realm to pinpoint better than we ever have been able to before the arrival of convective storms, whatever it is, allowed that to go off without a hitch. And then, of course, they had to do the evacuation, but they did the evacuation after the tournament was over, right? It was still the people out on the course that were kind of milling around after the event. Had that event gone on as planned, you were talking about a delay right smack in the middle of it. Who knows what happens, right? If they have to go to the next day, the nature of the course changes because it's got rain on it and everything else. So Tiger Woods was very much at the mercy of the meteorologist for that epic, heroic moment that he had.
How do you plan for evacuations for one event? Like there's probably not a lot of drinking at the Philharmonic,
right?
But, you get the Blues Fest and you're like, okay, we better add 10 more minutes for people stumbling, trying to get out. How do you do that for different events?
You practice at the expense of others, and you time it when you are not weather impacted. Every event has an evacuation, every one of them, right? People come to an event, they all come at different times. They don't all get there at the same time, but I guarantee you at a concert, a football game, a baseball game, everybody's going to leave at the same time when it's over. And that's when you start the clock and you end the clock. And now you have at least a baseline metric that you can work with. And so time the times when you're not impacted, right? Practice at the expense of those wonderful opportunities you have when you're not weather impacted so that you know exactly how long it takes to clear that facility. We do that with football. We do that with baseball. We do that with everything on our campus. And we've taught that to our friends and colleagues at places like Daytona and NFL, et cetera.
What's the fastest and what's the slowest?
Oh, man, it depends, right? There's a huge, like, for example, Rocklahoma, which is a rock concert out here in the middle of rural Oklahoma. That can take 30, 40 minutes to get everybody into a safe place. A football game at our place, we're down to about 15, 18 minutes. That's a pretty quick egress. Of course, those folks all want to get back out to their tailgates and, those kinds of things. So they're not hampered by, sort of this pressure over them that they have to evacuate. But what we've observed is that in the actual evacuations due to weather for some of our events, they do occur more quickly than the times, where people are just sort of around.
So one other question, Kevin, along with what you talked about earlier, a great plan you said now is starting to have and be based on time and not distance.
Yes, absolutely.
Which I would agree 100%. That my question is, obviously the challenge there is you've got to have probably someone that can make that call on the time, because it's easy on distance, right? You can get any app, you can get any service that'll tell you, here's where the lightning strike happened. It happened X amount of miles away. But those apps don't share, or those, I guess, services don't share time.
Right.
And so you got to have somebody. So how do you foresee that happening when there are places that don't have ability to have, like you on campus, to make those calls?
One, I always tell them that a professional meteorologist for perpetuity is less expensive than one wrongful death suit.
Are they willing to pay for it though?
Yes, they are now, because they see the value, right? And they think it's more expensive than it is. And to take that load off of them when you've got somebody who's not a meteorologist, I mean, if something bad happens and you're a non-meteorologist using an app, the first question in the court of law is going to be, okay, what qualified you to make a call using this information? Are you a professional meteorologist? And if that answer is no, that deposition is going to go downhill in a real big hurry. So I think people are seeing the value, both from a liability standpoint as well as from an expertise standpoint, that just like you would go get the best sound people, the best video production people, the best artists you could possibly have for your concert venues, well, let's go out and get the best meteorologists for your venue as well. And so we have a lot of folks in the private space that are now filling that role.
So are you going to start your own training facility for people for different events around the country? You could make money doing that,
One of the things that this is not about money, this is about safety. And I agree with you there. That's certainly the case. But I think we're about protecting life and property, and that's primary.
No, I mean, if you could train other meteorologists in the specifics of that.
Yes,
and I got to make a car payment.
Right. And I teach a class at OU about this now, right? I have a senior class where I have 30 to 45 students each semester, each spring, and that's exactly what we do. We do weather decision support, forecast training.
Thank you for tuning in to the Stormfront Freaks podcast. You can watch our bi-weekly show live on youtube.com/stormfrontfreaks and download the audio version on your favorite podcast player. For links to our Patreon team of exclusive benefits, show notes, past shows, new videos, merchandise, and more, visit our website at stormfrontfreaks.com. While you're there, check out our interactive chaser radar from our friends at zoomradar.com. If you'd like to contact us with questions or make comments about the show, shoot us an email to questions@stormfrontfreaks.com or follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Search for Stormfront Freaks. We'd love to hear from you. Join us next time and tell a friend about the Stormfront Freaks podcast.